Welcome, friends, to Inks and Issues, a podcast where we discuss comics in a book club style format. I'm your pill-poppin' host, Jonah Gregory.
And my name is Kieran, and I'm the leader of the podcast motorcycle gang. It's just me.
And today we have a very special guest from Transformation Sequence, Vince.
Number 48, number 27, number 32. It's me. I'm Vincent from Transformation Sequence. Hello.
And today we're going to be talking about Akira. You may have heard of
it.
Akira. Who here has seen the movie?
I have it in multiple formats. I'm currently looking at my Blu-ray disc. You know, I wouldn't say it's one of my favorite movies, but it's living art, you know? So sometimes I'll just throw it on and, you know, pretend I have psychic powers.
Kieran, have you seen the movie?
I have not seen the movie, but
I'm
Vince,
shocked to my core.
for like a hot 10-second period, it did seem like you owned it in multiple formats, but you just never watched it.
Yes.
Yeah, they're just sitting there. I like to look at the boxes, but I've been too afraid to watch it. The films are amazing. There's one scene in which Kaneda is mouth deep in a sewer, and then like a bloated rat comes up, and there's tons of turds in it, and it's one of the ickiest looking films of all time. And I urge you to watch it.
Yeah, there's some pretty disgusting body horror near the end.
Also in the middle, kind of
and in
beginning.
the middle. Yeah, it's quite the ride, but it is also incredibly famous for just making American audiences lose their minds when it came out over here, because they had never seen anything like that.
And also influencing the last 30 years of anime and manga to come out since. It was a landmark in both Japan and then later on in the US as well.
And the actual manga was, I think, kind of hard to find. Like, I never really saw it around until they did this anniversary reprint in like 2010 or something. That's the one I'm got from my local library.
I've actually read this edit before. I read Akira when I was but a wee lad, and I borrowed. It was all in my library, and I must have been maybe 12 years old. So you're looking at like maybe 99, the year 2000. So I guess Brentwood Library in England was really on it.
I was going to say, that seems highly inappropriate for a 12-year-old, but...
you know, if anything, I was like, oh, but in the film there was a boob. So...
Right, so you were scanning the panels very closely.
I was looking for a stray boob, but I couldn't find one.
I guess we can just jump right in. There's... The recaps are pretty brief, but before we get into those, I guess I will read I like reading the back of the book description, because it's always fun times. So this starts, "Welcome to Neo Tokyo, built on the ashes of a Tokyo annihilated by a blast of unknown origin that triggered World War III. The lives of two streetwise teenage friends, Tetsuo and Kaneda." How do you actually pronounce his name? Because I don't know.
Perfect. Kaneda! Okay. Tetsuo!
Change forever when paranormal abilities begin to awaken in Tetsuo, making him a target for a shadowy agency that will stop at nothing to prevent another catastrophe like the one that leveled Tokyo. At the core of the agency's motivation is a raw, all-consuming fear of an unthinkable, monstrous power known only as Akira. Yeah, that's actually a pretty good description. We've had some books where you read the description and you're like, that is not at all what this book is about. What are you talking about?
Pretty accurate.
The blurb, I think the blurb is missing this sense of Dukes of Hazzard-esque. Them darn kids don't escape from the government again. That kind of atmosphere to the action.
That's fair.
There was way more motorcycle riding in this series than I expected there to be.
Oh, and I'm so happy for it, because goddamn, these bike scenes have captured my imagination.
They're so good.
Ugh.
So a book that's like, 363 pages in the edition we were reading. Incredibly fast read, because there's so much of it is action scenes and very little talking in most of it, because it revolves around a biker gang and stuff. But Kieran, do you have some fun facts for us? I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves.
You know what?
Here.
I do have some fun facts for you.
Okay, excellent.
So Akira is what's known as a seinen science fiction manga series, written and illustrated by Katsuhiro Otomo. So it was initially serialized in the pages of Weekly Young magazine from 1982 until 1990 by the publisher Kodansha, who has been on the show before because they published, I want to say Tokyo Ghoul, but that's not correct. It's actually the one we did with Michael, the name of which is...
Noragami.
Noragami, thank you. Oh my god.
Yeah, there you go.
I didn't bother writing it down because I was like, there's no way I'm going to forget what that's called.
Sure.
I was incorrect. So the work was then collected into 6 volumes, which are all like 300 or 400 pages each. So it was first published in the English language by a Marvel Comics imprint, Epic Comics, and was then published by Dark Horse in the current format that we are reading at the moment in the 1990s. And I found a kind of an interesting quote from Katsuhiro Otomo about the story. And he says, "How I got to do Akira is a very long story. I told the publisher I was doing a science fiction story. The publisher opposed it, but eventually ran my sci-fi piece. It had a good response. When I did Fireball, I was given 50 pages. 50 pages was far from enough. I wanted to tell that story right, and that became Akira. In the story, Tetsuo takes drugs. He becomes so self-destructive that he loses himself. Young people go berserk on impulse and eventually destroy themselves. It's about motorcycle gangs, rock musicians, and punk rockers. You know, how they all die young. I wanted it to be about the marginal members of society. It's society's outsiders, those who don't belong, who are more intriguing to draw. Like we did, young people today should find their own way. It's not for us to say. They wouldn't listen to us anyway. That's just how it goes."
Take drugs, kids. That's the message.
Yeah, take drugs.
Yeah.
Take drugs. Just like do whatever the fuck you want because you ain't going to listen anyway.
Interesting perspective on things.
Yeah, you know, I mean, if you pop amphetamines, you might get psychic powers if you pop a speedball or something. I certainly felt like I did. Not that I have ever taken illicit substances. No.
Neither have I.
Okay, well, I guess we will dive in. So recaps are a little light this time around, so we'll probably be, going through those pretty quickly and then diving into...
Thanks, weebs.
Yeah, weebs, what's up with that? They're like, we got to get through 6 volumes or however many it is of this.
Look, if you want it page by page, it's like, Tetsuo takes some drugs. Tetsuo takes some more drugs. Tetsuo kills a person with his mind. So I get it. I get it.
That's
brevity.
Fair. All right, so we open in a bit of a prequel situation because we're back in December 6th, 1992.
Oh, God, I was 4.
Wow, I'm much older than you.
I was not even born.
I'm way older than you. A new type of bomb exploded over the metropolitan area of Japan. And we get...
Oh, can I say, this first image, this first color image... evokes such emotion and memory in me. Just seeing this big black orb engulf Tokyo. That was such a large part of my childhood, from the film and then reading the manga, just seeing this expanding orb.
Oh yeah, it's
extremely visceral,
incredibly iconic imagery in this book.
Oh yeah, I'd never read or watched Akira, and even I was like, I kind of recognize this.
Oh yeah, it's definitely been referenced a lot. So there's the giant explosion caused by mysterious reasons.
It turns out that Earth is a gaper.
And 9 hours later, World War III begins, and
how dare you just pass over my comment?
Yep. And then all of these, yeah. So basically, the world just goes crazy, blows the crap out of each other. I'm assuming with nuclear arms are involved in some level, and now we jump ahead 38 years later after World War III, where the world basically had to rebuild itself from nothing. Because mankind is that stupid.
It's true.
And of course the allegory is incredibly, hard to miss here. The idea of rebuilding after a nuclear explosion and then being afraid about having this new world next to the old world and what it kind of does to the psyche to have this collective PTSD. And the answer to that is having street gang fights.
Of course.
Yeah,
that's what I do in my off time. But anyway, we jump quite a ways ahead, and then we see that basically the city is broken up into like this old area that's completely trashed, and then the new areas, which are pretty trashed too, if we're being honest.
Yes.
Like, everything is incredibly run down.
Everything's pretty rough.
Yeah.
Something that Otomo does so well is like detritus. You know, sometimes you'll have entire panels, entire pages where it's just an abandoned corridor where people are about to walk down, or just these random shots, and you just see such detail in the background.
Oh yeah.
And you can kind of see them in these first scenes just on the broken highways alone that they're driving down. Just, you know, the amount of detail just on some broken rubble is ridiculous.
It's kind of cool, though, because we get an intro with the main gang that we get familiar with, which is Kaneda and Tetsuo's gang. And they're doing
Bososoku.
And they're doing street races and stuff. And they drive to like the end of where the freeway, like the giant black orb of death, like ended, so that they can just kind of stare into this abyss because
they go to ground zero. You know, they go to the pizza parlor just around the corner, and they head up Main Street. You know, so they have a good time.
Just regular teen things.
Yeah, they go right to the edge, and one of the gang members in their gang is very dumb and asks why they stopped. He's like, we literally got to the end of this road. We would fall into a giant hole if we kept driving. Like, how stupid are you?
It doesn't say who said it.
No, it doesn't.
I reckon that's just Tetsuo, you know, because I don't know. If there's one thing that Tetsuo really embodies to me, it's just stupidity.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. So as they're doing their race around for fun, because they're bored teenagers who like to get up to no good, they're racing back, and this kid appears in the middle of the road. And
this is when the whole you got to treat it like a deer, right? You got to aim for it, right?
And go as fast as you possibly can. And basically Tetsuo completely wipes out. And the kid.
How beautiful is this this scene though, right, with the explosion?
So the bike explodes, he wipes out, the kid is totally fine, because, you know, he's not just an ordinary kid, because when we see his face, he looks like an old man. And then he vanishes because magic. No, because science.
Oh, yeah. Kind of looks like Michael DeMaro a little bit. You know?
Interesting.
It is Michael DeMaro.
That's not where I
the
would have gone
character's
with
name,
that.
Michael DeMaro.
Yeah. Oh, I want to say that in the film, which Otomo actually directed as well, he turned this scene, which already looks incredible on the page, he turned it into one of the most iconic, beautiful, moving scenes in all of animation history. Just seeing all the lights, the trails of the bikes, and then he turns it into a motorcycle fight with the clowns who we'll meet later on.
Right. Yeah.
He did a really good job condensing this 6-tome epic down into a single film. So I got to give him props for it.
Yeah, I'm kind of shocked at how much he crammed into that movie, because I feel like if someone tried to make that today, they'd get laughed out of the room. For one, for another, it would probably be, if they were to try and make it, it would be like a trilogy of like 3D CG films or something, you know.
100%.
There is, I believe they've been trying to make a Western film adaptation of Akira for years.
Oh yeah.
I think I just saw like a teaser for it, you know, just some concept art for it.
Yeah, Taika Waititi is attached to direct it.
Yeah. And honestly, I'm really fucking thrilled when it was like, we're gonna have Keanu Reeves playing Tetsuo, and as Kaneda, we're also gonna have Keanu Reeves because there's no other Japanese-looking actors in the whole of Hollywood.
Yeah.
At that time, I was pretty disappointed, but under Taika Waititi, you know, I'm gonna say I'm pretty hopeful. And there's also talks of perhaps an anime series with Otomo playing some kind of producer role in it.
Okay.
Interesting.
Which could also be good.
Yeah, that would be very interesting. So the kids are escorted back by military dudes who randomly show up mysteriously, because it turns out there's like a, you know, fascist government, as you would expect, post all this crazy war and whatnot.
Yeah. So here's just like a random little fun aside. When I was finding these recaps, none of these recaps like blamed the government for anything. They just talked about gang violence and like civil unrest. And I was like, what? Are you reading the same book?
Yeah, Jesus Christ. It is an inept government, which is then replaced in a coup d'etat by a militaristic government.
Right. And,
the government in Akira is horrible.
Oh, they don't know their head from their ass. That's kind of the point.
And not to spoil the end of Volume 6, but it literally ends with them fighting the world government who, saying, hey, we've got this walking bomb, his name's Akira, don't fuck with Japan. Which is a bit terrifying.
Mm-hmm. So all the kids, they get sent to basically like reform school, where they're not allowed to like
love.
They basically have to behave to some degree. They're all pretty much doing their own thing anyway, but they get like, the big burly, what do you call it, gym teacher guy that just starts like beating, like physically beating the crap out of kids. He literally
just punches them in the face. Like that seems to just be like his job.
In the film, they have him go, Deshaplan, just hitting him. And I should not laugh at children being beaten physically, but as a teacher, I say, yes, bring this back. And then that they have to say like, arigato gozaimashita! Like, and it gets so silly for an anime, which is, incredibly serious. It has these moments of like childish levity, and like this bit afterwards when the PE teacher with the massive jaw just kind of sways his hair around afterwards and they all swear at him. It's extremely childish, but that kind of adds to its charm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it you kind of, in some scenes, almost forget that they're supposed to be as young as they are until there's these scenes where they're like, oh yeah, teenagers that are like egging each other on like this will just start cussing out an adult or making fun of their shoes or whatever kids do these days, saying what are those,
There'll be scenes where they're like riding motorcycles through the street and then Canada stabs a guy and he's like, yeah, I've killed before. And then like 2 pages later he'll be like, you're such a butthole and I hate you.
Yeah.
Oh my God, my homework's due.
Yeah. And you'd be like, oh, he's actually like only 15 or something.
Right.
He's a horny little 15-year-old.
Oh, exactly. And they also hang out in a bar all the time, which apparently is fine. There's like the bartender. I
love this bar.
That just
like, the bartender doesn't give a shit.
Lets them hang out and drink.
And take pills.
Yeah, take
pills in front of him.
Like hardcore pills.
Yeah. They do lots of drugs.
The entrance to the bar, which has abandon hope all ye who enter above it, and you can see the scrawlings of graffiti. It looks so much like some dive bars in Kabukicho that I've been to. I'm like, it makes me nostalgic. There were no drugs there, though.
That you know of.
Well, I did have my drink spiked once when I was in Roppongi. That was, it was not nice. It was a little tiny bit of Hypnol that makes you go crazy and doesn't knock you out. It's bad.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, that's not good.
Woke up covered in blood.
Was it a bunch of punk kids that spiked
your drink? No. It was a stripper. I don't want to get into it.
That's fine. I didn't actually expect you to explain. I was just making a joke.
You're just trying to be polite. It's fine.
Yeah. You don't have to go into your trauma here. This is a podcast about comics.
I'll get into it. It will just take the next hour.
Not a public therapy section.
Why do people keep telling me that?
So down in their dive bar that they always hang out in, there's a meeting between an older dude and I don't know how old she's supposed to be, but there's the lady that, of course, Kaneda is immediately super horny for and is following around.
She's meant to be like 18, 19. Her name is Kei.
She's not that much older than them, but
Kei should be the main character, right?
Yeah.
Yep. We'll all agree that Kaneda, you put up with him. He has these brief moments where you're like, oh, he's the main character. And then the rest of the time it's like, shut up, Kaneda. And the rest of the time you're just like, Kei, come on, man. Be the lead here.
Be the lead here. Yeah. Canada is fine with like a capital F. He's just fine.
He gets accused of rape one too many times to be a main character in my book,
yeah. And he does spend a lot of time being like, I want to be here and I want to help. And it's like, but you don't need to.
It gets a bit tiresome how many coincidences, like, oh, I'm accidentally here right at the right time to mess with this girl and accidentally shoot my friend. Like, it's It does get a bit contrived, but I'm kind of willing to go
that
with
is
it.
pretty relatable, though.
Well, in your world.
He's so relatable, just constantly shooting
because
my
you
friends.
only have 4 million people in New Zealand. You know everyone.
That's actually pretty fair. I'm not even going to deny it.
Yeah, I once bumped into people I knew in New Zealand when I was like visiting other cities, and I just bumped into them on the street. It was weird.
Yeah.
I definitely ran into people I knew from Washington when I was in Disneyland, and that was very weird.
300 million people, yeah.
But yeah, back to this. So basically they're running, he's running after this girl because he's like, yeah, girls are pretty. And they find the child again that disappeared. And
I don't wanna
when
fuck.
he feels threatened, he basically explodes a bunch of stuff. And
why are they going to kick his... I really hate how they're like, oh, it's a small crying child, let's hurt him.
right.
Well,
That's teenagers for you.
Because they're bikers. They're bikers. They're like,
I know.
You hurt our friend when he was riding his bike the other day. Now we're gonna beat the shit out of you, small child that was found wandering on the road.
Mm-hmm.
These random biker dudes, I hope none of them lose their heads. I don't even know which one it is, to be honest. They're all quite faceless.
Yeah, most of the rest of the gang, like, you start recognizing a few of them that show up, but I don't even know if they're named. Like, if they are, I just totally, like,
one of them is a name.
Yeah.
The one who dies has a name.
Oh, of course. The one that
because he has
goes
to
off
scream
immediately.
it at the top of his lungs, but that's it.
Yeah. So basically there's like, we get into a lot of these chase sequences that become like a pretty central thing of this first volume, where it'll be like, hey, it's that person we're chasing. And then the military shows up and now we're running away together. But you do get some like insight into the characters, because as this chase kind of keeps going, we get Kay like cornered and pulls a gun and actually shoots one of these like military dudes in the head, where you're like, you go from she's like this scared girl who's being brought along on these missions or whatever for whatever reason. It's like, no, she's actually part of this resistance and is willing to kill to like save the world.
And Kaneda's shocked by it, right? Like he is for all the ideas that he is this like, rad Bosozoku biker gang leader. And in the film, of course, he is killed by this point because he's smashing clowns in the head with crowbars. In the manga, he feels younger. He's shocked at killing. There's a scene where he bumps into a woman on the street and his face is in her boobies. And he looks about like 4'2". Like he looks incredibly young at times.
Now, she was a quite burly woman, but still, he does look very short compared to a lot of the characters in this.
Which, I'm a Chinese man in a white world, I can relate.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm just short, so I can relate too.
So one of the things I was that made me think of too was when later in the book, when one of the gang members is killed by Tetsuo, like that's a big deal because they don't normally kill each other in the gangs. They just beat the crap out of each other and leave them for dead.
Yeah.
But they don't actually finish them off.
Yeah.
Normally.
Many charges of manslaughter, but none of murder.
Sure.
It is up to that bit, they are having a childhood spat where they would beat each other up, they would get into fights, and Kaneda throughout the first volume is kind of treating it like that.
Yes.
Until that moment, right?
Like, it definitely feels like it's a game to him up until she shoots a dude in the head right next to him. And then he's like, wait a minute, this is not just like us beating each other up for territory or whatever.
Consequences for your actions?
But actually, I'm 15. I don't understand this.
Even in volume 2, when he gets a hold of the laser rifle, he's just shooting it everywhere, so he's still kind of treating it like a game, to be honest.
Oh, yeah. Basically, Kaneda gets really involved with Kay, and she's like, I don't really want you to come with me because you're kind of a shithead, but he just sort of ends up...
You kind of suck.
You kind of suck. But he ends up, Kaneda is like a shithead, but he isn't all bad, and he ends up kind of helping her and her brother, I think it is, Ryu, get away
adoptive older brother.
Yeah. The relationship is not really like clarified that much. Kind of helps him get away with the small child that we encountered before, and everything's kind of going okay. But then the Colonel shows up.
The fucking Colonel
Shikishima, who is like Oh my god, he's such a good villain. I love him so much.
I wouldn't even, he's kind of villainous in a way, but I like at the very least.
He's the antagonist.
He is the antagonist, but yeah, he's definitely made to be more neutral in the film. In the manga, he is very much like a rootin' sheriff who's after them Duke boys. And he is also, he's a stereotype and a half, right? He's just yelling everywhere. And he is so, how should I put this? He's so blinded by his own arrogance, by his own his assuredness that anything he's doing is correct, that he is blind to see that he's just kind of setting everything up for a massive fall.
Yeah, he definitely feels like he has his mission and he has like, this is what needs to happen in mind, and he doesn't really care who he has to like shoot or, you know, arrest or whatever to get the job done. He's very like driven.
Yeah, which I think is what makes him so like appealing as an antagonist, because like it's that kind of unstoppable force sort of thing, where it's like he will do whatever it takes to achieve whatever his goal may be. We don't really know at this point.
I kind of find him. I think he is that, but I think he's also the honorable antagonist in that end, because later on we get more like sneaky antagonists, right? For example, Chairman Nezu, who makes an appearance in this volume, he ends up being like a sneaky evil bad guy, whereas at least with the Colonel, you know where you're at. He does everything out in the open. He's playing all his cards out in the open.
Yeah.
And it's because he thinks he's doing the right thing.
The Colonel shows up and he also has a kid. He also has an old kid in a chair.
Yes, my kid has a wheelchair. He's better than your dumb old kid.
Your kid can walk. Mine is a cripple. That makes him cooler.
I choose Masaru. Masaru, use Psybeam now.
Yeah, and they're like, our kid's in the defense mode. And, man, Canada loses a lot of life points at this point.
Why did they put the little old kid in a tiny suit, you know?
I don't know.
Why did
I
they
have to
make
imagine
him
it was
look
his
like
choice.
Yeah. He looks like Lindsey Graham, you know? It's awkward.
This is what Jeff Bezos is going to look like in like 40 years.
Oh no, Jeff Bezos doesn't have that much hair.
Well, they show his hand says number 27. So he's a much older one of these experimented on children, I guess, because when we get to Tetsuo, he's what, 41?
41.
Yeah.
Number 41. Yeah, I remember that. The little girl though, I can't remember her number. I think she's like 14.
Yeah, 14 something like that. Yeah, she's like real old. Anyway, so the Colonel shows up and he's like, I have a small child in a chair. You should all just give up now. And then Canada, obviously being him, he then just punts the kid that they have, and he's like, I am going to shoot him in the head if you don't fucking back off.
Do you remember in Point Break when Keanu Reeves grabs a dog and then kicks it away from him?
Yes.
Which does absolutely happen. He does look like he's kicking a puppy here. It's real mean.
Yeah.
It is very mean. Like, if out of context, you would assume, or I would assume, that that's from like some sort of comedy manga, because it's so over the top, that panel of him being kicked.
And the sound effect is pwarf.
Yes.
Pwarf.
It's
he lands in
basically
shit.
boy, oi, 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 oi.
Let's not mess around here as well. This river is a river of shit.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They
Yeah.
spend a lot of time wallowing in poos.
Yeah, they sure do. And I do appreciate that he drew the water like just black to make it look horrible when they're standing in it.
And again, this is such a great dystopian sci-fi in that you've got all this wealth of the city and yet all this like military might and technology, and yet we spend all of the time where are the actual people in this? They're like in the gutter, right? They are stepped on by society. Mm-hmm. It reminds me a lot of remember that robot one? Remember She's a Robot? The white woman played a Japanese woman, everyone got angry.
Oh, Ghost in the Shell?
Yeah, Ghost in the Shell. Yeah, Ghost in the Shell, that's the one. Jesus Christ, I'm getting old. But yeah, Ghost in the Shell, it kind of reminds me of that, like all this brilliant technology, and then you spend it in rubbish heaps.
Yeah.
Which I think is, I don't know. I feel like that's kind of why I like the Colonel so much as like the antagonist, because he's kind of part of this, like, well, yeah, because he's clean, but he's like, he feels like he's doing the right thing, but it's like, how correct can he be when he is helping to kind of like uphold this system that has, for as far as we can tell, for the last like 40 years, basically like subjugated the population and allowed this kind of poo river to continue.
Well,
that's beautiful.
Figurative and literal poo river.
Exactly. Anyway, yeah, so Canada kind of just like beats this kid up a lot, threatening to kill him the whole time, and then everything goes real wild, and all the ground starts breaking up and like cracking, and like pillars are shooting everywhere, and it's pretty fucking rad.
And then Psycho Killer starts playing. Psycho Killer, qu'est-ce que c'est? And everyone's having fun. There's a scene there's a line in it which is, "This is intense," which is precisely what I would say if the ground was trying to swallow me up. Yeah.
And then Canada does like a sweet grind off of this broken sewerway, and then does like a 350 or 360.
Right. He is Sonic the Hedgehog. Yeah.
And he goes around and he collects like 6 letters to make the word skate, and yeah, it's good. Tony Hawk, pro skater. Anyway,
we also get so when they get away, right, they all have to apologize to the Colonel, and whenever the Colonel is angry, it is a beautiful panel, right? Otomo spends such a long time just getting just the right shading on his neck just to show that he's super pissed off. Mm-hmm. It really is great. Like, sometimes it goes into this hyper realism that is really wonderful to behold.
Yeah, some of the bits actually kind of remind me of Junji Ito, just like that real, like, super, super, super detailed.
And definitely Junji Ito must have been inspired by the body horror of this.
Oh,
it isn't in the manga, but there is a bit in the film where Kaneda is freaking out after returning back to school, which is coming up here, and he imagines his guts falling out. And it is one of the most visceral shots that I can still summon at will at any time. And whenever I'm like leaning over the toilet throwing up, which happens a lot more than you'd think, I think of that, of like my guts just coming out. I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm just spilling my guts to you guys, you know?
Yeah.
Literally and figurative. Oh.
Anyway, so they managed to get away from the military with the old child, but importantly, Canada manages to get away with this little pill, that the wheelchair child tries to give to the old child. Oh,
yeah, the megapicillin, right? It's a megapicillin pill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, the other old kid that we've seen many times does have a name, Takashi, which is only of note really because the military only refers to them by their number, but they do have names. They were people at some point.
The little fat one is Misaru, and the little old lady we meet later is Kyoko. So they have these like cute little like kid names, and they don't all make it. You know, they don't all make it through.
Nope. No, they do not.
Get shot in the head. It's great.
And Kaneda
he's basically a fuse for a nuclear bomb. That's essentially what he is.
Yeah. Kaneda like just immediately gets back into like asshole teenager mode and gets the pill and is just like, "Hey guys, I'm out of here. See ya," and then skateboards away, presumably. Is able to escape, but there's some pretty cool shots of, with all the destruction, how the old children are like floating on this little island that's above everything else. That's a piece of rubble. So, showing, there's crazy powers going on, like, obviously at this point.
I can't find any other evidence of like psychic powers being used this clearly and beautifully. Like, obviously this isn't the thing which invented psychic powers, but I would say a lot of modern magical powers in Japanese lore, and also like in American lore as well, is kind of inspired by these this idea of psychic bubbles around you and like this like unseeable force, and then how that would bleed into Dragon Ball as well.
Yeah, good point. So he makes it away with the pill. The military dude is very upset about this capsule. And
let him get away?
Even the magic children are like intimidated by the military because they clearly have them like, contained in some way. They take care of them, but they also like control everything about them. So
there's a great scene in Volume 2 when the Colonel is screaming at the little girl Kyoko. And it's just like this gigantic man just screaming at this little fetus girl, going like, "God damn it, Kyoko! Like, you're gonna be grounded for this."
I mean, just seeing like the kid that you just saw like rip up all of the, the waterway and float a little island around and all this stuff, and then this guy getting mad and he just immediately like shrinks down. Like, it's just shows you what kind of relationship is going on there, and it's very upsetting. But then Kaneda goes back to school and everything's fine after that, right? No.
Yeah. And that's actually where the story ends, which I thought was a bit of an anticlimax, but whatever. Yeah. Can't all be exciting. No,
but the big thing, of course, is that Tetsuo is back.
And I really wish we could have gotten, and I've thought this, just a little bit more time with the building of the friendship between Tetsuo and Kaneda. Yes. Because later on, when that degrades and when like the feelings of betrayal come in, it feels like it's exposited like off screen almost. Like I don't quite get it. I know what they're getting at, but I just needed a couple more scenes of them just like, yanking each other's dick and being friends and then hating each other again.
Yeah, because like so he comes back to school, and so as soon as he comes back, they're like blow class, and they take a bunch of pills and they ride away, and they evade the police, and then they get kind of like attacked a little bit by the clown gang, and Tetsuo, because he's a total loose cannon, starts beating this guy to death, and Kaneda, who is the leader of the gang, is like, hey, let's fucking not do that, and there's this kind of like this very like testosterone charged moment where he's like, I said I don't take orders from you, Kaneda. Got that? And it's like, I get what they're trying to build here, but I haven't seen enough of the friendship prior.
Yeah, I needed like 3 more scenes, yeah.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, of course, we get this like 3-page scene where we lose all respect for Kaneda as he asks the school nurse to analyze the pill, and she's like, I might be pregnant, and he's like, oh, right, well, you should get that taken care of, see ya. And it's super dark, like he just knock this girl up. It's really dark.
He actually says, she says, I think I might be pregnant, and he says, hey, great, can I watch you have it?
Oh,
which is, I feel worse.
I mean, this is why 15-year-olds need to keep it wrapped up, Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. And she does actually have an important plot thing in that she analyzes the pill that he stole and basically tells him like a grain of whatever medicine is in it is like 5 times more powerful than the entire bag of drugs that she's secured for him, because that's his connection to getting drugs, is this school nurse that he's been sexing up. So it's a very messed up situation, and definitely
it's not great.
It just paints a very dark picture of like this character. You kind of start to like him, and then this scene happens and you're like, wow, I really hate this guy now.
Yep.
He's an awful person.
So just before you think everything's totally fine, the military actually shows up to the school. Surprise.
What a shock.
So Kaneda has to kind of like basically book his ass out of there. But Tetsuo, he ends up going with the military to some kind of secret testing lab place where they kind of like poke his brain, and they do that like, he's more powerful than anyone I've ever seen before.
I do want to say, when Kaneda is walking down the corridor of the school and the Colonel and Kaneda see each other, they just scream, you again, and then and when you wake up in the morning, and then like the Saved by the Bell theme song starts playing. So again, moments of real darkness, and then there's just this goofiness.
Yeah, tonally it's a bit all over the map, but you're also dealing with a bunch of unstable teenagers whose hormones are also all over the map. So I guess it kind of tracks.
I also just want to say, like, just in case like we run out of time to mention it, but this book is really, it's really cinematic in a way. Like, everything is so like impeccably thought out, and it reads kind of like a storyboard for a film. So I mean, I'm not surprised that the film is so good.
He also directed films before this, so he knew about storyboarding.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was not aware of that.
That I mean, that makes total sense, because there are so many panels that don't necessarily have anything like happening in them, but really kind of combine with like the rest of the page to just sort of like set things up. Like there'll be little close-ups, or like what you were talking about before, there'll be wide shots of like just trash and rubbish, just to kind of establish and like get you into the world of Akira, the mood, to establish the aesthetic.
Yeah, establishing shots like in a film. Like,
gets me all turgid, all the trash.
And it, like, there's like nothing's flat. Like there's so much like perspective and like really cool angles going on. It looks fucking amazing. I gotta be honest.
Yeah. Like the tiny little details, right? So you'll observe a room like from an isometric position, right, in the corner, like a CCTV camera. And I'm looking at one where Kaneda is talking with Ryu in the hideout, and like he's looking all petulant, and you can see like the coffee mug, you can see the cigarette butts, you can see all this detail on the wood and paint cans, and a guy sitting on the box in the corner. And it's like, you didn't have to go through all this effort, but you really wanted the person to be in the room, which is what I think Akira does, which I don't think I've seen in many manga even today. Like, to do all this in the fucking early 80s was crazy. At least now you can have a team of people doing shading, and you can base it on like CG models and stuff like that. But this is a work of love.
Yeah, the level of detail is like insane compared to most comics just in general. Like, and this is a book that's, like 99% in black and white. There's just a few like intro pages here and there that are in color. And I honestly, like, you don't need to be colorized in this book to like get all of that detail. It just, the way the shading is so well pronounced, it just kind of pulls the characters out from the backgrounds really well.
Yeah.
I also hate full color manga as well. I think like the black and white makes everything so much more beautiful.
Interesting. Okay. We're just so used to these American comics that are always in color.
Dang, American comics. Yeah.
But one thing I wanted to say was, with all that detail, you never lose the action, which is a problem in a lot of action focused books that I've found is like, even books I like even One Piece, which I just love, there's some pages where I have to like, okay, pause the reading and zoom in on this panel on my iPad because I don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah, like everything has a lot of detail, but it's really clean. It's really clean, really comprehensive, and there's never any real like confusion about like, where is everybody, what are they doing, and what is currently happening.
Yeah, exactly.
I did have a moment where something happened in one of the panels, and I was like, how the hell did that happen? And I read ahead, and I still don't get it. And then I read ahead a bit further, I'm like, oh, I'm not meant to get it. Psychic shit is going on, and the characters aren't really sure about what's going on. Which was I think that's a nice way to kind of tease the audience there.
Yeah. It's almost like he knew exactly what he was doing.
Yes, he did.
So back to the story. Kaneda actually runs back into the Resistance again, and he's like, "What a coincidence! I ran into you guys. How weird!"
My God, he's such a shitbag in these scenes. I want to strangle him.
Yeah, he sucks real bad in these bits.
But like, you are meant to feel that, right?
I'm
like
sure.
he's more of a rogue than Han Solo, and I think that over time you're meant to see him like awaken as a leader and a hero, but certainly it's kind of tough to get on board with him in the first volume.
Yeah, he's got a long way to go to not just be a
shithead,
attempted rapist.
Yeah, I think it's like volume 5 where he starts to get tolerable. Like, he has to be sucked into a psychic vortex first.
I mean, that's how it goes. I mean, there is some pretty cool scenes of the psychic effects you were talking about. Like, there's a projection of him in front of himself, but he's like on fire, and they're just like, what the hell is that? And then it just vanishes, and they're like, okay, that's a thing that just happened. And then all these military dudes run up. So it's like, no, they were just literally distracting you so that the military guys could catch up.
It's a pretty good use of psychic projection.
Yeah, and that was one of the things I thought was really cool in this, is like they use the psychic powers in interesting ways. And some of it's like the stuff you've definitely seen later inspired by this, I'm sure, of like Tetsuo, like, I can't control my powers, so just like random things are blowing up around him, and you know, that's why he's kind of agrees to stick around for a little bit, is because they're like, hey, we can help you control this stuff.
We also meet
but
we meet the third psychic child, who looks like Betty White after a 4-day bender, Kyoko.
That's...
Oh, God, I hate looking at her face. She's, like, so much more horrific than the other two.
Yeah. And this was kind of a bit important. So, Canada is basically chilling with the resistance, and then we kind of cut to the colonel, and he's, like, hanging out in this fucking playroom. Like, there's no pretense about what it is. It's a playroom. It's full of, like...
Yeah, it's a beautiful playroom,
nice.
Right? It's like 5 stories high. It's got a dome, and just seeing this big buff military man going, "Excuse me, Kyoko, would you like to play with Mr. Fuzzy Wumps today?" It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and then like 2 seconds later, he's like, "Fuck, Mr. Fuzzy Wumps, tell me about Akira," and it's like,
tell me, Akira," and he's just shaking her and going, "Tell me."
it's
mood swings.
Yeah, but it makes for like a very kind of disturbing like. Overall vibe, and I really like it.
Again, going back to the movie, some gorgeous and disturbing imagery in the nursery in the movie as well.
I feel like I'm going to need to watch this movie
with giant psychic teddy bears and whatnot. Oh, you definitely need to check it out.
So carrying on, the military eventually show up to the Resistance's hideout and really just kind of wreck shop and raid the place. And you know what? We haven't swum in poop for a while, so Canada and Kay, they both jump down into the sewers and try and get away. Mm-hmm. Which they do. Like we don't really see their escape. They do manage to get away, but Tetsuo has also managed to slip through the military's fingers. And
guys, this is my favorite next few scenes in manga. Probably,
it's so good. So the clown gang shows up, and they're like, we're gonna, beat you up or whatever. And Vince, what happens?
Well, we cut back to how exactly Tetsuo has gotten out of the research facility. And we just see the doctor, and we'll get to know this doctor quite well, and the colonel just standing over the mess of a body. And it is grim. They animated this death in the film.
Oh.
I will say that much. They actually animated it. And it is this in motion, if you can imagine that. Yeah, so it is a real amazing scene. We have this scene where the clowns are, "I love you with all my heart, fucker. I'll show you how much." And then Tetsuo just blows up his head, right? This is his signature skill, right? It's like the PP7 for Bond is just blowing up of the head. And it's not like it just kind of, like there's always this screaming where the person is holding their skull as it collapses in on itself. And for some unknown reason, all the rest of the bikers are like, "Wow, shit, you totally killed that guy with your mind. Will you please be our king?"
Yeah.
And it's like, "Do you have drugs? If you have drugs, then yes, I will be your king."
Yes. Can't get enough of those drugs, so...
He really can't.
Literally, he can't.
He's got these evil headaches just pounding at him. He's like, "I need to take more drugs that, then can actually, OD the Denver Broncos, or else I will have these headaches."
They basically say that he, takes, $5,000 worth of drugs in, one sitting. And he's like, well, that kind of helped with my headache, I guess. But so, he takes over this clown gang. And I thought for sure, because I couldn't remember if he murdered the former boss, but he just throws some bowling balls at him and doesn't hit him, just intimidates him enough.
Yeah, the guy's like, oh, okay, yeah, definitely he could definitely kill me, so I guess I'm second in command now.
Yeah, exactly.
Which, I mean, to be fair, if someone just like wandered in, started throwing around bowling balls with their mind, I'd be like, okay, that's like whatever you want, it's cool.
Yeah, exactly.
And then Kaneda steals Kei's gun and then locks her in a broom cupboard because he's a dick. I almost said but then I realized I'd probably get bleeped. And then I just said it, so now you have to bleep it.
And don't forget, he also tries to have sex with her as well. Just, you know.
Now, was that just a ruse to get the gun? That was what I took away from it.
If she was into it, I think his plan would have fallen apart. Yes. But she wasn't, so he locked her in a cupboard, which is, well, shows great sexual agency.
Yeah, he sucks. Yeah.
He does get to run through a shit river again, so there's some good news.
No bloated rat corpse like in the movie, though. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, because he's trying to get out and get to his bike to try and like get his bike.
Yeah, he's obsessed with getting his
it's
bike.
It's a fucking sweet bike. That'd be worth running through a sewer towards.
It is the most famous bike in the world, I think, at this point.
I would say so.
I sometimes see videos of people like driving a mock-up one, and I just think I'm due for my midlife crisis, and if I turn up at school on the Kaneda bike with a jacket on that says like, take drugs, kids. I think that would fulfill the requisite properties of a midlife crisis.
100%, yeah, I think. And I think that you should follow your dreams.
Exactly. Don't let your dreams just be dreams. Come on. But yeah, moving along, we actually get to see Akira, kind of.
Then we get a Trump press conference because we have the colonel shouting orders at people. They can't hear him because of the helicopter. So they're like, what is like, what? And then he has to get in this face to turn off the lights, you idiots. This is a secret base. And again, the colonel is so right. He is such a good straight man for comedy. I love it so much.
But yeah, the secret facility is where Akira is being stored. So we get to see the outside of Akira's lair, I guess. But but you don't know what or who Akira is yet. It's just a gigantic dome with all these cool pipes and whatnot being shoved inside of it.
And it's really cold.
Fun fact.
And it's covered in ice.
Final Fantasy VII, when you first climb the Shinra Tower, the body of Genova is in a miniature dome that looks exactly like this dome. And I would be very shocked if they didn't just like lift that idea. Oh, secret evil thing that could destroy the world. Bam, let's put it in the Akira dome.
Yeah, that's fair. I do remember that scene, though I have not played that game in many, many years.
I have never played a Final Fantasy.
Oh, wow. It's so good. There is a headless corpse just floating in this dome, and then one of the characters says, "Where's its fucking head? The whole thing's stupid. Let's keep moving." It's really wonderful. Oh, I forgot about there's more shit. Just Kaneda just playing around in shit for a while.
Kaneda tries to go and get his bike, and he really just fucks it up, like in a huge way. He doesn't even get the bike. He just kind of wanders around in poo a lot and gets chased by the military.
I don't think he hasn't showered or changed his clothes since the last shit river he was running in.
Right. She does mention that he smells really bad.
He must smell just like offensively bad.
And also, he's
there
15.
is a scene where she's like, "Don't you ever take baths?" He's like, "I hate baths," and she's like, "Yeah, I can tell."
Yeah,
and I was like, "Dang."
Oh, he's like a cat, except he doesn't clean himself.
He's like a cat. His asshole is filthy.
Oh my god, I'm just flipping through the pages, and it's just shit river.
It goes on.
But he eventually catches up with Kei, and they manage to find his bike eventually, and he manages to get away and get back to the hideout, which is always a good time. And Kei meets back up with the resistance, and she's like, I want to help. And he's like, no, keep an eye on this like random 15-year-old that you've been hanging out with for a while. Because that would be...
Yeah, we feel like he's important to the plot for some reason.
Yeah.
Well, he has the pill.
He does have the pill. It is revealed that he actually has the pill hidden in the bike.
Yeah, in the gas tank.
Can I just ask though, is there any reason for this pill really? You know what I mean? Like, this whole pill thing could have just been cut out of this manga and it would have made no difference. There's a little bit with it towards the end, but really, no.
I mean, it's the MacGuffin, like you said. It's the thing that draws all these characters together who would normally not interact.
It's the only
she's
thing
basically
that is stopping Ryu
assigned...
from popping him in the back of the head. Which
yes, she's basically told, he knows where it is, follow him, try and find it. And the military knows he grabbed it. They don't know if he still has it. I mean, if he had taken it, he would just be dead. So they know he hasn't taken it yet.
Isn't the pill just like super horse tranquilizer?
That is ketamine, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he would have just K-holed to death.
That's what I thought.
But we basically were cutting between the gangs kind of...
Ketamine is a wonderful drug, okay.
The gangs are all fighting because of Tetsuo's need for
drugs.
Constantly eating lots of drugs.
Eating drugs.
Yeah, he's eating like cereal. Drugs. He's like pouring milk over it.
Yeah. Yes. And he looks right at the camera and he goes, ketamine, it's great.
There is a scene that reminds me of in Mystery Science Theater where they're joking about like the pills as food in the future thing, and they're like basically implying you have to eat like giant bowls of cereal worth of drug, like the pill food to like satiate yourself anyway. So like that's what it reminded me of, like this giant thing of drugs.
Just get a bunch of pills and craft it into something that looks like a roast and just eat that instead.
Yeah, exactly. But we see that Tetsuo is kind of very into this whole being in charge of everything. He's like riding his motorcycle around without touching the handlebars or anything because he's using his sweet mind powers.
Yeah, that is a classic Bosozoku body movement that like leaders of gangs would do, where you're such a big player that you lead at the front and you cross your arms, kind of thing.
Okay. So they attack the various gangs. The clown gang and Kaneda's gang run into each other because this all needed to come to a head. Yeah. So
there's one shot of Tetsuo as well when he is like in darkness and there's like a light on his chest and he almost seems to be like melding into the dark behind him. It's super scary.
Yeah, there's also another one where he's just sitting around waiting for them to brew more drugs, and like the headaches are getting really bad, and it's like a close up of his face covered in sweat, and there's just like a string of drool coming out of his mouth, and he just looks so like animalistic, waiting for drugs.
So to get to the end of this volume, basically, because there's a lot of little details that we could probably talk about forever, but it kind of all culminates in the two gangs facing off. Kaneda has the gun from earlier from K. It has a bullet left. And Tetsuo is like, you're not going to shoot me. Like, we're still buddies, right? But then he does shoot. And it's kind of surprising. Like, you wouldn't really expect him to, but things are like so crazy. It just kind of happens, It's like
the warehouse scene is fucking brutal. Seeing Yamagata is like, yo, dude, just like everyone's fucking dead in there, man. And this is the point when Kaneda realizes, oh, he's gone. There is nothing left of Tetsuo in there. He is like a force of nature that you need to kill at this point. And then of course that he does the head blowy thing on Yamagata, who, poor Yamagata, he just wanted to hang around reading the horse racing results, and he was trying to do a good job, and then bam, he's just fucking dead. But it's a great scene, right? Like all of this military and government programs and these secret military things, it all just comes down to three childhood friends just shouting at each other in front of a warehouse.
Yeah. Yeah. And beating the crap out of each other. And in this tussle, after Tetsuo has been shot and still not stopped. He gets shot in the gut. And he gets hit on the head with like a pipe. But then the pill falls out of Kaneda's pocket. And of course, it's immediately eaten by Tetsuo. And you don't really know, like, at first, like, he falls over and you think, oh no, what is it going to do? But then he just stands back up in this very cool scene, like, where he's standing in front of the military guy and just looks like kind of confused, but also like, okay, now I'm just going to wreck shop on like everything, and just starts blowing up the warehouse around everybody as they're trying to speed away on a moped.
And God, the detail in the explosion is remarkably good.
Yeah.
It is ridiculous how much detail he put here. And then he throws a crane at him.
Yes, he throws the crane, but Kay, for whatever reason, decided that this guy's worth saving and drives up on the moped and saves the day. And as all this craziness is going on, basically Colonel Shikishima is like, hey, come with us and we'll help you like figure out how these powers work and whatnot.
Number 41! I will convince you by calling you a number!
Is just like, yeah, okay. So that's where volume 1 ends. There's a lot of stuff going on. So let's get into some, overall thoughts of Akira volume 1. Vince, you want to kick us off?
It is at times frustrating how annoying some of the characters are, but it is that is a minor point in the face of what is probably one of the most important publications in Japanese history, taking into account, modern pop culture. I would say that if you are a fan of any anime or manga whatsoever, doesn't matter, which genre you've liked or seen before, Akira is something that you should go back, watch the movie, really enjoy that. And then, when you're ready to upgrade, start reading the manga. And, it holds up. It holds up after the 30 odd years that it was finished. It is still beautiful. And this first volume, you reach the end of it and you're like, I can't stop, right? You need to keep going after you finish it.
Yeah. I bought volume 2 immediately after.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. That's fair. I actually am like, okay, should I just keep getting it from the library? Should I just give in and buy that cool box set from a couple of years ago? But it's kind of pricey. So I don't know. Kieran, your thoughts on this?
Fantastic. Just absolutely fantastic. As we discussed, some of the characters can be kind of annoying. And by I say characters, I just mean Canada, and I don't know why the fuck he's the main character. Like some of the like the teen stuff is a little bit, it gets stretched a little bit thin for my liking. Mm-hmm. And the whole kind of Tetsuo Canada, like, he's my friend, but now he's psychic and evil and I got to take him down and it's really hard. Like, you don't really buy too much into that, but I don't think it really matters because everything else that's surrounding it is so amazing. And like, even if you're not really like a huge anime or manga fan, if you just like comics or if you just like good sci-fi, I think you'll enjoy Akira. And I think even if you don't feel like you're that kind of like in that space or like in that world, you'll still pick up on a lot of stuff and be like, oh, this really was like super influential. And I can see, like, I recognize a lot of the things in this. So it was a really interesting read from that point of view. But I mean, it's beautiful and really well written and such an enjoyable read and just clips along at such a good pace. And yeah, I would recommend it wholeheartedly.
Excellent.
Jonah, what about you?
I would agree. Yeah, it's so influential that I think it's kind of important if you're someone who likes mangas or comics or, just pop culture in general, that it's definitely worth, like, if it's a gap in your knowledge of pop culture, definitely go back and take a look because you're going to see a lot of stuff that's referenced in everything that came after it. And again, I do find it kind of shocking how old the book is because it feels like it could have come out yesterday. Like it just has a very modern feel to it. Like a lot of sci-fi from the past that's set in the future, which is kind of now. It doesn't like.
Well, the book is set in 2019. Like, it is set in this year. We are all fucked, guys.
Yeah. Well, isn't the Olympics that are referenced in here like next year?
In Japan,
and they are in Japan.
In Japan, yeah.
Because that's one of the things they're doing is like they reference like, oh, they're building this huge facility for the Olympic Games, but it's actually like going to be a secret military base like after the games are done. So
I
it's
promise
all just like
next year I will go and I will sniff around the new Olympic Stadium.
Sure.
Yeah, just to make sure.
Because Akira is going to be in a weird dome underneath the stadium, I assume.
I will be sure to wear a thick coat because I understand it gets quite warm. It gets quite cold down there.
Yes. But yeah, easy recommendation. Just go in knowing about some of the, more problematic scenes and also that the level of violence is incredibly high. Now, it's not constant like in some books, but when it does happen, it sure happens a lot.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, easy to recommend. I can definitely see why it's so well regarded. And I've read this like the first couple of volumes before, but I don't think my library was like getting them in as they were coming out or something. So like I'd kind of lost track of it. But now I'm like very geared up to go back and finish the whole series because this fully got me reinvested in this world again. So yes, that's 3 yeses for Read Akira. I'm not surprised by this outcome at all.
No, I would have been surprised if any one of us was like, you know what? It's fine.
After all this, yeah.
All right. So Vince, where can people find you on the internet?
Well, I am one of the 3 hosts of Transformation Sequence Podcast. It's a podcast where a panel of nerds get to talk about anime without the random fear of... I fucked it up. Yeah, so it's an anime review podcast.
Without the fear of random bullies trying to force feed us pills. My name is Kim, joke. My name is Ben, joke. And my name is Vince, and then something probably self-deprecating.
Actually, I go in the middle of the two, because if I go last, I'll say really horrific things. Yeah, you can find me at SequencePod on Twitter, and hey, I'm just out there fighting the good fight, telling people how bad anime really is.
Yes,
I'm currently working my way through the current season, and holy shit, it is a bad season.
Oh boy, it seems like this is a running issue with your show. Is that when you do your season reviews, you're like, oh no,
yeah.
But congratulations on hitting 200 episodes recently.
Thank you. It was a battle of attrition.
That was the thing I was looking up, was to like verify, because I had heard 200. Because I'm not up to date on any of the podcasts I listen to. I'm going to fully admit that. But yeah, it's definitely one that the first, I would say, 50 episodes of our show references. Is Transformation Sequence. We often tell people to go listen. So we're very happy to anytime you or the Stonics are able to come on.
I always listen to Inks and Issues whenever it's manga, except for when Kim and Ben is on, because I hear their voices enough already.
Gotcha.
And hey, we're all part of the Geekly Inc. family, are we not?
That's true.
We are brothers in arms.
Yes. Kieran, where can people find you online?
Oh, you can find me on Twitter. I'm at Mr. K_Bennett. Or you can check out my D&D podcast. That is For Crits and Giggles, which is at For CNG Podcast on Twitter. Also, go listen to Transformation Sequence. It's good.
Oh, thank you.
Jonah, where can people find you?
Oh, man, you can find me all over the Twitters. I try and post semi-frequently from our Inks and Issues account, and also you can find my personal account at A Real Jonah. And yeah, that's mostly me bumming around online. I also occasionally try and stream to our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Inks and Issues. I've been playing through the Spider-Man PS4 game, but not that one, the Amazing Spider-Man 2, which is a movie tie-in game that I didn't know existed for a movie I haven't seen. And that's been weird.
Also, hold the fuck up. When did your Twitter handle change?
Quite a while ago at this point, like a month or two ago.
Right. What was it before? It was something real weird. Spambot, yeah. Oh, yes. And I can see why you changed it, because people kept accusing you of being Spambot.
No, actually what happened is Telegram, an app that's much more popular in other countries, people would go, I reported this thing to @spambot on Telegram. And I'm like, this isn't Telegram though. So stop tagging me. So I still own that account. I just switched over. I just kind of set up the new one and played musical chairs with the usernames. So that is now my.
That's clever. I like it.
All right. Well, with that, we will see you all next time.
Neo Tokyo is about to explode.
No!
I love you.